For years, people have been underestimating and overestimating at the same time and debating on how effective are hashtags really. The clicks, the view times, the engagement. This is interruption marketing. You don't have to be diving into ad platforms and setting up campaigns to do it. Keep it simple and not overcomplicate how we use social media. It's categorizing your content to make sure that you show up. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Clarity with Sims Media. On this episode, I want to help simplify what we're doing on social media and our approach to it so that we can improve the reach of our content and also the engagement. But I think that there's really a lot of different strategies and tips and tricks and very granular little things out there, and it's always popping in. There's always new strategies and new people throwing ideas at you that it's getting kind of annoyingly overcomplicated to use social media. And so I want to just help give you 3 things for now that you can use to look at how you're posting on social media and how you can increase your reach and just make things simpler. So the first thing when we are looking at social media is the use of hashtags. Using hashtags is a funny discussion because for years, people have been underestimating and overestimating at the same time and debating on how effective are hashtags really, and talking about different hashtag strategies and, again, getting super complicated into the use of hashtags. If we look at it from its simplest form, hashtags are a way for you to organically categorize your content for the right audience. So on Instagram, you can follow hashtags. So if people are looking at content and it's got a certain hashtag, they click on that hashtag and they see a bunch of relevant content, which is why it was tagged with that, or you hope, then they'll follow that hashtag to see more relevant content around that particular hashtag. So it's a really great way to tell the platform, hey, this is the kind of category that my content belongs within, and then allow that organic targeting to your right audience. And that's why you have to put a little bit of thought into it. And finding the right hashtags doesn't have to be super hard. You can start with identifying the keywords that relate to your business, your offerings, and then start putting those keywords into the searches or putting the hashtag and then the keyword and start seeing what kind of hashtags pop up. And then you can start compiling this list and getting further and further down the branches of what hashtags expose themselves to you when you start typing in your keywords on those particular platforms. And then you can start using those hashtags. But one of the things is you don't want to just use the super big, large hashtags because everyone's using those. The large trending hashtags everyone is using. So it's going to make it hard for you to compete for the viewership against all the other content that is using it. So you want to use a mixture of small niche hashtags all the way up to the large trending ones so that you can try and really hit a super specific audience, your really ideal target. And then if it performs well there, it can kind of stepping stone increase your engagement throughout the other hashtags. So it's kind of like hit the right person to help prove that it is relevant and good content, and then it will perform a bit better in those higher ranking hashtags as well. So you want to use a mixture so that you can potentially have that nice growth effect through the use of those hashtags. But if you're using just super small hashtags, then you're limiting your audience. And then if you're using just super large trending hashtags, then you are going to have to compete against everyone else, and it makes it really difficult. So you want to use a mixture of hashtags from the small niche ones all the way up to the large trending ones and group those into each of your postings. Also, one of the things you can do is you can look for those keywords, see what kind of hashtags pop up, start finding the small niche ones, start finding the large ones, but also look at your competitors or similar accounts that have your audience and see on their postings what hashtags they're using. And then you can look in those particular hashtag feeds to see how well they're performing for those. But if you've got someone that you think does a good job on social and has the similar audience, you can look at the hashtags that they are using and then use those on your content. So when you're looking at what kind of hashtags to use for your content, first and foremost, think about it's categorizing your content for organically to hit the right audience. You want to use a small niche batch of hashtags all the way up to large trending hashtags all together so that you've got the best of both worlds and a full range of opportunity of engagement and reach. Then also, while you're searching for keywords, searching for hashtags, look at the keywords, put those keywords into the searches, see what kind of hashtags come from those, and then also look at your competitors to see what hashtags they're using and perform well with, and use those hashtags on your content as well. So the biggest thing really to simplify that even further is just to make sure that you're categorizing your content to help the platform find your right audience. Secondly, you want to look at kind of the format that you're publishing your content within. I know a while ago, a lot of content was landscape. So like a kind of like a widescreen TV, a 16:9 aspect ratio. A lot of content was published that way. A lot of content you see now is vertical, like TikTok. That's a 9:16 vertical format. But paying attention to the kind of formats and the dimensions of content that is shown on these platforms is very important to make use of the space within the feed. If people are scrolling through their phones and you have this tiny little landscape 16:9 piece of content on there, it's not going to take up much space at all. So it's a whole lot easier to just go straight past. Whereas if you're on Instagram and you've got a reel and it's a 9:16, or you're even doing like a 3:4 aspect ratio on there, then as you're going through, that's going to take up more space within the feed. So it's a lot easier to grasp the attention of someone as they're scrolling by. Remember, this is interruption marketing, and we discussed that really recently. You're trying to get someone's attention as they are just going through for entertainment purposes, catching up with friends, whatever. You want to make it super easy to catch their attention. So if there's a particular platform, and especially with mobile devices, these do super good with more of a vertically oriented content format. So if you put in a vertical 9:16 piece of content, you have a much easier ability to catch someone's attention because it's taking up majority of the screen. So that's why it's important to pay attention to what kind of content format does really well, and like the largest type of dimensions you can possibly use on particular platforms to make sure that you show up. There are, I would say the two best formats right now is square, so 1:1 aspect ratio, and then vertical 9:16 ratio. Those are the two. If you want to like really cut down on how many different types of dimensions you actually publish, especially if there's a lot of design elements to your videos, then I would focus on creating 1:1 square content and also 9:16 vertical content. That way the square performs really good on both mobile and desktop platforms. And there are certain platforms that desktop is still pretty decent with their consumption. But then there's platforms that are just purely focused around mobile viewership. And so that's where you would play more to what dimension is going to work best on the phone. And I actually had a friend, and I was seeing him posting up his content not too long ago. And he had a black background with a little landscape video over the top of it. And it was submitted in a vertical orientation. So I said to him that when you're going through your phone, you basically have all this black space and then a little sliver of the video, and it kind of makes it look like something's off. Or if you're going through a desktop platform and looking on your computer, there's a square orientation a lot of the time within the feed on a desktop computer. And so your vertical constraints are actually giving you this tiny little box right in the middle of this big black space. And so you're not visually capturing the attention very easily. It just looks very dull. And so I said, just simply put like a white background to it or something that helps that color and that piece of content pop off the page and easier to catch someone's attention. And he started doing that. He did it immediately, changed the design of their background to their content, and they now have higher engagement. He said he noticed very quickly that they were getting more engagement because people were seeing it. It was easier to catch their attention as they're scrolling through the feed. So you are competing for people's attention whenever you're on social media. So looking at the size that you can post your content, whether it's square or vertical on a particular platform, is very important so that you can actually stand out as easily as possible, take up as much of the feed as possible, so that as people are scrolling by, boom, you're right there coming by as they're scrolling. So pay attention to the feeds and what kind of dimensions work best. And like I said, there's a lot of different ones that'll work, but to make it really simple, I would just focus on doing square and then a 9:16 vertical orientation video. If you do those two videos, they will work everywhere. So you can throw that on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok, YouTube. It'll work on all of those platforms. So focus on making square and vertical content, and it will just work on all of the platforms. Then so those are some organic things you can do. Hashtags help to self-categorize your content organically to reach the right potential audience. And then also making sure that your content takes up as much space as possible within the feed to catch someone's attention. Here's one strategy that I heard it years ago. I was first introduced to it years ago by Dennis Yu, and it's called the $1 a day strategy. The $1 a day strategy is awesome because organically, it's getting very hard to compete and get any kind of reach. And so if you put just $1 a day behind your content, say you put up a posting right now and you put some ad spend behind it just so that it spends $1 a day for a whole week, so 7 days, you can get that in front of a targeted audience. You can set where you want that to go. But you're also giving a little push to accumulate the data that allows you to know whether or not that content is a good piece of content. And that's also, to set the perspective, that's also based on all of the rest of your content. If you regularly put $1 a day for a week behind every piece of content that you put out, then you will regularly be gathering data of the clicks, the view times, the engagement for each piece of content you have. And then as you've been doing that over time, you can start seeing which pieces of content perform better than the rest. And then, hey, you can take that and turn it into an ad. Like there was some element of it that did well. You can start dissecting why certain things did well, or take that piece of content, use it as an ad, make it a re-engagement ad, anything like that. But because a lot of platforms are getting harder and harder to perform organically on. Putting just $1 a day, $5 a day, doesn't have to be much. You can just give it a little bit of a push to get some initial traction and engagement on it, and make that a lot easier for you, because you're not going to know what's working, what isn't working, if nothing is getting in front of anyone. So just putting $1 to $5, doesn't really have to be any more than that a day, on your content will allow you to start seeing which content of yours performs better than others, and accumulate that data so that you know how to make your content better and better, and even pull pieces of content that can be used as ads. And just initial getting people to engage with you, that could be the piece of content that you put out there to get people to know about you. So quick summary of everything: use hashtags because they are categorizing your content for the type of people that would like it. It makes it good on the platforms to know who you're saying your content is for. People follow hashtags, so there's a chance of you hitting another stream of content, so you can show up in those hashtag feeds and be recommended to people. So it's categorizing, it's giving you another chance to show up in the feed. So use the hashtags. You can look at what your competitors are using for their hashtags. And you can also take your keywords associated with your business, put them in the search bar of each of the social platforms to see which hashtags show up. Then look at each of these platforms and see the kind of content that is showing up when you are scrolling through, and notice how larger pieces of content are a lot easier to see. So make all of your content in 2 different versions. Make a square version and make a vertical version so that it works best on all the platforms out there and maximizes how much space you're taking up within the feed to make it easier to pop. And then boost your content for $1 a day. If you're on Instagram, Facebook, a lot of the platforms are doing it now where it's just a simple push to promote. Set your budget, set who you want it to go to, and for how long, and then boom, there it goes. It's super easy. You don't have to be diving into ad platforms and setting up campaigns to do it. You can do it directly from your phone. If you're on Instagram, put out a piece of content, hit the boost button, choose your budget, choose who you want it to go to, and then it'll go out. So it's you don't have to learn how to use ads or anything like that. It's a very easy way to just get your content out there, get some data accumulated so that you can start seeing which pieces of your content do well. So those are the 3 things that we'll cover today: hashtags, the use of dimensions to make sure you stand out on the platforms, and then also the $1 a day strategy. But we can use some more examples in the future, but I just want to leave you with those 3 right now to again, keep it simple and not overcomplicate how we use social media. Overall, make content that serves your ideal client, and then do what you can to categorize it and make sure that it's shown to them. But if you have any other questions, let me know, send us a message, and we will answer them. If you've got any questions for future episodes, then send those in as well, and we will answer those. Take care.